What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly Sports History for September 28th, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a rainy Saturday edition of the podcast. Still waiting to see if we're going to have soccer today or not, and then baseball, and who knows? We're at the mercy of the weather. Before we get into today's episode, let's start with a quick housekeeping note. Be sure to check me out on social media, Jimbo_Mont, Twitter and TikTok, on Instagram at Philly Jimbo. Follow the YouTube channel, subscribe, Jimbo_Mont. Spread the word. That's the only way we grow this thing. You guys are doing a great job. I appreciate all of you, but let's continue to grow it. Quick preview for October. We're going to start our Red October on Tuesday, where we're going to look at some of the best Phillies postseason games in history. That'll lead right into our Sixers preview. Hard to believe the Sixers are almost back. It's crazy. And then we'll finish off the month starting our Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame spotlight. And if you want information on that, all the ticket information, inductees, everything is in the link in the description. So go check that out. Again, thank you for 750 episodes. This is number 751. Lots of good feedback with that. People having some fun with 750, and a lot of you have been here for all 750, so thank you for that. All right, Philly Goat. I've been telling you to go get your Red October gear there. I noticed on the site yesterday the fans are back just in time for Red October. I wore them out last night. We went to McGurk's for dinner. Where are the fans? Get them. The Philly Fanatic themed shoes. The canvas loafers, they're comfortable. They look good with jeans. They look good with shorts. Go check them out. But the fans are back. And then they had a new Holy Schmidt shirt in honor of Mike Schmidt's birthday yesterday. They got you covered for Red October. So go to phillygoat.com. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off. Get your Phillies gear. They got your election gear. Gear up for Sixers. They got plenty of Sixers gear as well. So go to Philly Goat. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery so Ryan and the team know that you're listening. And then if you do get rained out of soccer today, check out my boys over at the Clashing Conferences podcast. Great things over there, both baseball and football. They're certainly gearing up for basketball as well. That is available wherever you get your podcast as well as on YouTube, but they're doing some great things over there. All right, not a good outing for the Phils yesterday. 9-1 pretty much was over before it even started. Ranger just did not look good, labored through that first inning. And I got to say, I'm a little concerned. Before I was like, you know what? It's going to come down to Castellanos, but I'm telling you, Ranger Suarez is going to be the key to this postseason run, and you can't have him pitching like that. So I'm not sure if he's still hurt, if he lost some things. He typically steps up in the postseason, but man, he's going to be the key. I know a lot of people are saying Castellanos, but to me, it's Ranger Suarez is going to be. We need him. So not a good win, good loss, 9-1. They're now 2 games back of the Dodgers for the top seed with 2 to play. So essentially, they have to win both and hope that the Rockies beat the Dodgers in both games. Zach Wheeler's on the mound today, Aaron Nola. So the Phillies should be able to take care of business, but I don't know. It's going to be tough for the Dodgers to lose 2 to the Rockies. I mean, and that's okay. At this point, we got the bye. That's the main thing. I did see that they were going to play some inter-squad scrimmages during the break to kind of keep sharp. I read an article this morning that Kevin Long has them doing some interesting things with the pitching machine in order to stay sharp as well, moving them in closer and then setting it to like 100 miles per hour. So it seems like it's much faster than what it's coming in. So I guess whatever's going to work. He has experience with this when he was in Washington, so going to trust him. Apparently, Spencer Turnbull is going to be pitching some in those inter-squad games. Hopefully, maybe he can still make that postseason roster and provide some veteran depth as we head into the postseason. Because, like I said, I mean, I'm concerned for Ranger. But that leads me to today's question of the day. Are you concerned about Ranger Suarez heading into the postseason? 267-495-8531. That'll get you in. I certainly am. I mean, he's been such a key piece in the past two postseasons to have him struggle the way he has. And he was pitching better before last night. So maybe it's the weather. Maybe you can chalk it up to essentially what was a meaningless game. But my radar and antenna are on full alert right now. But let me know what you think. 267-495-8531. That's the Back to the Future voice and text line. Get your thoughts on Ranger and anything else Philly sports related. And then, to recap yesterday's question of the day, I did ask, if he's not 100%, would you sit A.J. Brown no matter what? 75% of you said yes. I agree. I just feel as though you cannot take a chance, especially with a soft tissue injury like that. It's you don't want this coming back up in 6 weeks where he's still on the injury report and limping around and questionable for games and things like that. So if he's not full 100%, I say sit him. He was a limited participant in practice, so that leads me to believe that he might not be 100%. I say be cautious, and again, it's not necessarily a scheduled loss, but I mean, you don't want to take a chance with that. So he was a limited participant. Lane was a limited participant. Devontae had been ruled out, so he's not going to play. But I think it's going to come down to the other guys, and I'm looking specifically at Jahan Dotson, man. He needs to really step up and get open, and this is his chance to shine. And I mean, also with Jalen, I mean, I saw a post that we all talked all the time about how great McNabb was without having any weapons. We talked the same thing with Carson Wentz. So it's essentially, that's what we need is Jalen to pull a Carson or a Donovan and win a game without his weapons. So we'll see, but we will have more on that, including the 3 keys to the game. Key Bank, if you're out there listening, call me, be a sponsor. There is some news, though. The first one, it's an interesting one. Apparently, I forget the guy's name, but it was the Jets reporter for ESPN reported that he heard a little birdie say that Hassan Reddick would not mind coming back to Philly. I mean, there's certainly a need there. And to me, Howie, swallow your pride. Basically, it's okay. We all make mistakes, man. Just swallow your pride. Get on the phone. Call Joe Douglas and say, hey, man, I messed up. Come on. Let's do it. And it can't hurt at this point. And I know it's a long shot because Howie's going to have to admit that he made a mistake, and he's a very stubborn person, and it's why he is who he is and where he is. But if this can happen, Howie, you need maybe I don't know, cancel it. Give them back the pick swaps. If they want Bryce Huff, give them Bryce Huff too. I don't know, but swallow your pride, man. Bring Hassan back home. I think it was probably humbling for Hassan too, because he's going to have to admit he made a mistake. Howie, we all make mistakes, man. Just admit that maybe this wasn't one of your better moves. Call Joe Douglas. Now, the other side of that is Joe Douglas has to admit that he made a mistake, but who cares? It's the Jets. That's what they do. They make mistakes. So, Howie, do the right thing. Bring Hassan home. The other thing that I saw a lot of people talking about yesterday, which I just don't get, and they were saying Saquon is on pace for a ridiculously high amount of touches for the season. And I don't, who cares? That's why you signed him. I mean, and he even said, they asked him in one of his press conferences this week, and he was like, listen, sometimes I'm more sore and hurt after I touch the ball 10 times versus touching it 25, 30. So it all depends on the hits he takes and things like that. I think after 3 games, it's ridiculous to even entertain the notion that he has too many touches. Just give him the ball, and there are going to be games at some point where you're not using him as much, especially when AJ comes back. But where this team is with injuries, I don't think you can do that. And they're like, well, he's injury prone. Well, guess what? His first carry of the game, he could get hurt. And I don't think he's at any more of a risk to get hurt on the first carry, the 15th, or the 30th. So to talk about his touches, and dude is in ridiculous shape, so it's not like he's going to wear down. Miss me with the whole Saquon, but let's do a little bit of a bonus question of the day. Are you concerned that Saquon Barkley is touching the ball too much? It's preposterous to even think that. Yes, preposterous. 267-495-8531. We got two questions of the day today because why not? Are you concerned that Saquon is touching the ball too much? And let that sink in because it feels weird even asking it. But let me know your thoughts on the Back to the Future voice and text line. Flyers at the Wells Fargo Center tonight against Boston. Yes, it's preseason, but this will be a good test for a young team. Would love to see Mishkov come out and just continue to dazzle. Mishkov Mania is going to be running wild on the NHL this year. The Union are also in action tonight at Subaru Park. Huge game for them against Atlanta. They are currently tied for the 8th spot in the playoffs, which is a wild card. Atlanta is in 11th place, only 3 points behind, but the Union are still within very much striking distance of getting into the non-wild card portion of the playoffs, and they've been red hot. So hopefully that continues tonight down at Subaru Park as they take on Atlanta. I think it's Atlanta United, but either way, they're playing Atlanta. Let's get that win, Union. All right, today, we're going to go back to 2003. And on this day in 2003, the Phillies lost to the Braves 5-2 to close out the season. That wasn't the story, though. This had nothing to do with the game today. This was the last game ever played at Veterans Stadium. And basically, the game for both teams was an afterthought. Atlanta, I think, was getting ready to go into the postseason. The Phillies were playing out the string. But there was a lot of pomp and circumstance before this game. Lots of emotions. They brought back former players and paraded them around. The grounds crew was dressed in tuxedos. Harry Kalas was dressed in a tuxedo. He was the master of ceremonies. They highlighted and celebrated each of the teams that played at the Vet. And the biggest moment and the special moment, which I thought was great, was Tug McGraw came out and reenacted his final pitch to Willie Wilson from the 1980 World Series. And that was right a couple months after he was diagnosed with brain cancer. I think it was that earlier that spring. And he wasn't even supposed to be there. So that was a very emotional, cool thing to do to close down the Vet. Harry and the Philly Fanatic went out and pulled off the numbers. If you remember, throughout that season, they did the countdown where a different former player or person associated with the Phillies came out and pulled down the numbers. But I had so many great memories at the Vet, and yes, it was a piece of crap by the end. But at the time, at one point, it was state of the art and the crown jewel of stadiums, believe it or not. The biggest memory I'll ever have is the first time walking in, and still remember the smell and the sight to this day. The orange, yellow, and brown seats. The old school, very 70s, 80s like. Think of like a McDonald's fast food restaurant from the 80s. And just walking in there and the smell of stale beer, peanuts, and just the grill, the hot dogs and sausages on the grill. Just a very distinct smell that I'll never forget. My dad took us down when we were younger, and we sat in seats not far from where my Eagles season tickets were for there. But many memories with my dad down there. Just random times we'd go down. When I was in college, we'd randomly go down to see wasn't anything to do, so let's go down to see a Phillies game. Watch Temple play there, so a lot of great college players, Michael Vick, Santana Moss. So a lot of times Temple was on the losing end of those games, but it is what it is. Obviously, my season tickets. So I got to see Ozzie Smith, who over my left shoulder here, I have his autograph up. Went to the first game post 9/11, a very emotional game against the Braves back in 2001. Also, just some memories from football, like the first game post 9/11 at the Vet when they stopped the game because President Bush came on and announced that we were attacking Afghanistan. Crowd went nuts and everything. everybody was just super patriotic at that point, but it was a very cool moment because they stopped the game and actually played the address over the Fanavision. Obviously, the NFC Championship game, which to this day, if Brian Mitchell takes that opening kickoff in, they score for a touchdown. But I have my piece of the vet over there. So many good memories, so many bonding moments with my dad, my brother, friends. So definitely, it was a dump, but it was our dump. And I do miss it sometimes. Obviously, Citizens Bank Park and Lincoln Financial Field are phenomenal. And blow the vet away. But there was something charming about that piece of trash. But at the vet, the Phillies had a winning record, believe it or not. 1,415, 1199, and 3. They won 3 pennants, 1 championship, and 7 division titles at the vet. The Eagles also had a winning record at the vet, 141, 110, and 2. 2 NFC championship games, winning 1. 11 playoff games. And it's surprising when I was doing the research for this that both teams, because they went through some lean years there at the vet, surprising to me that both teams had winning records at the vet. So that was, I don't know if I would call it a home field advantage, but they were able to do their thing. But the vet, on this day back in 2003, the last game ever played at Veterans Stadium happened. Phillies lost to the Braves, but that was an afterthought as there was just a ton of pomp and circumstance, lots of emotion, and just trip down memory lane. But sometimes, like I said, I do miss that place. All right, finally today, somebody I do not miss. Today's Philly Sports Villain is Jonathon Papelbon, and I feel like he never fit in from the beginning, was very vocal about how he hated it here. He said he was lied to, and which I don't doubt. When he signed here, Ruben promised him he would be playing for at least 1 or 2 championships. What he forgot to tell him is that team got old literally right after they signed Jonathon Papelbon. That team got old, and he criticized the players, criticized the manager, criticized the front office, just always talked about wanting to be traded. He hated it here. Never really got along with the fans and never really warmed up. He got pissed off because now, granted, our boos were probably misdirected at him, but he blew the save the one time. It was like his first blown save in like 12 or 15 games. He got booed, grabbed his crotch, got suspended for 7 games for that, and took it personally. But really, that was probably got misdirected at Papelbon. Should have been at Ruben Amaro for paying all those old guys so much money and not allowing or having a way for them to get out of the contracts. Ironically enough, he is the Phillies' all-time saves leader. So, I mean, he was good while he was here. So maybe it's not his fault he's a villain, but he certainly didn't help himself. Like, complaining, like, shut up and play, because we're complaining about this team. We don't need the players on the team complaining about the team. Like, you let us do the complaining. You go out there and save games. But he really was kind of a douche. I mean, he fought Bryce Harper after he was traded to Washington. Because ironically enough, and I find this kind of funny, he got on Bryce for not running out a ground ball. Stop me if you've heard that one before. But he did go after him, and I think he punched him, if I remember correctly. But Jonathon Papelbon, the Phillies' all-time saves leader, is today's Philly Sports Villain. But again, shut up, dude. Let us do the complaining. You just go out there and play on a sucky team. On this day in 2003, the Phillies played the last game ever at Veterans Stadium, losing to the Braves 5-2. But there was a ton of cool ceremonies and things like that. The best part, probably, it was either Harry Kalas pulling off the number or Tug McGraw coming out and reenacting it just 6 months or so after being diagnosed with brain cancer. Very, very cool moment. Let me know your thoughts on Saquon Barkley's touches, as well as if you're concerned about Ranger Suarez. 267-495-8531. Do a little retail therapy today to get through your concerns. Go to Philly Goat, get the fans. They are back, and they're awesome. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for September 28th, 2024. My name is Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Saturday. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.